The gift of adversity. It sounds almost like an oxymoron. And that is what we're diving into today with our guest, Marcus Aurelius Anderson. Marcus, thank you so much for being here today.
Bridget, thank you for the opportunity. I'm really looking forward to this.
So what is the gift of adversity?
You're correct. It is an oxymoron. It's like a giant shrimp or military intelligence.
Right.
The idea is adversity shows up unannounced at the most inopportune times without apology. It doesn't care what you want. It doesn't give a damn about your feelings. It doesn't care if it's inconvenient. It shows up because it forces you to elevate to become the person that you need to be to achieve this goal. So as we were saying off camera, you jump off the cliff, you build the airplane on the way down. Without genuine adversity and repercussions, we are not going to be pushed to become the version of ourselves that we need to be to reach this. And here's the thing, there's always adversity. It's en route as you and I are speaking. So
Right.
Do I choose to embrace it and get in front of it now? Because if I try to go around it, it can crush me. But once I learn to ride it like a wave, I can get to the shore unscathed. And once I'm at that place, then I can look back and say, wow, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I made it out to be much bigger than what it really was. And then we say, where else am I doing this? And then we just keep evolving and growing.
And you definitely have earned the right to address this topic head on. You had to face remarkable adversity in physical challenges from your previous career. So
Yeah.
when you were in the military, you had a severe spinal injury. Is this really where your deep understanding and ability to convey the gift of adversity, is that where it originated?
It was so for those that don't know, I joined the military at 38, and that's a long story, but I joined the military, and in 2012, while preparing to deploy the light infantry, ruptured a disc in my neck. It paralyzes me from the neck down. I flatline on the table twice. I'm told I'll never be able to walk or use my hands again. I'm told I get to live to tell the tale, but this is what I'm going to be left with. So I actually celebrate my 40th birthday in a bed, broke, divorced, paralyzed, trying to figure out what the hell do I do.
Right.
In my mind at that time, I thought that reading books, being able to regurgitate wisdom, being able to sound smart, pat myself on the back for, I read this book, I'm intelligent, doesn't mean anything. Knowledge that is acquired but unutilized is the equivalent of ignorance. So it doesn't matter if I can regurgitate what Marcus Aurelius or Sun Tzu or Robert Greene or Stephen Pressfield said. Am I living it? And I realized at 40 that I had all this wisdom, but I wasn't applying it. And so that's when I was like, that's the damnable shame of it. I know all this stuff. Why was I waiting? Why was I hesitating? What was I afraid of? And frankly, was any of it nearly as bad as what I'm dealing with now? I had this idea, I call it the adversity scale, where each of us have a 10, the worst thing we've ever gone through, physically, emotionally, financially. And when we look at that thing, and then we look at what we're facing right now, most of the time, it's not even a blip on the radar. So
Right.
when you're stuck in traffic or when your latte's not hot enough, ask yourself, really, is it that bad? And if it's not, stop making it bigger than what it is. Start applying that time. And that's where that idea of Acta Non Verba came in. This idea of actions and not words. If you want to know what somebody truly believes, don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. And that includes us. What are my patterns? Where am I repeating? And if I've done it more than 3 times, that becomes preference. And if I'm not aware of that, I will continually repeat over that, and I'll be ambushed. I'll be ambushed and have the audacity to be surprised when it happens.
Right. As you say that, I'm laughing because I immediately thought of instances recently where that has shown up for me. So
Yeah.
yes, and we do. We're like, oh, and we act like it's a big surprise, and really it should not be most of the time.
Well,
You know,
the only time we should be surprised is when we don't face adversity. If we do face it, it's like, I'm on the right path. But if I'm not, it's like, am I doing the right thing? If this is easy and this is well planned out and there's not a whole lot of obstruction, maybe it's the wrong path. Maybe I'm lying to myself. Maybe I'm creating mediocrity around this idea. And that's what, as leaders, as coaches, entrepreneurs, we can't afford to do that. That's literally the
No.
definition of opportunity cost. And we're not only failing ourselves, but the people that depend on us if we do that.
And it's creating mediocrity and then accepting it and just being
Justifying
okay.
it. Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that is a real danger zone.
People will build nobility around that. They'll say, oh, well, I don't have money, but it does this. Or they'll justify that and they'll say, oh, I'm being patient. Let me tell you that justifying those things is not going to help you. And also remember that it's very easy to act humble when you're not trying to push yourself.
Right. Yeah. And it's really interesting when you put it that way because it shines a light on what you may be doing that's just perpetuating the status quo. So someone is just allowing it to be the way that it is, even though it is not their potential, their
Right.
gift, their opportunity, or their desire. They just wrap it in a wet woolen blanket, decide they're comfortable with that, and then they,
Yes.
just let it sit.
Well,
And how many
they'll do
dreams are lost from that?
that's it. And here's the other part. The idea of adversity is going to rub us raw if we don't adapt to it, right? So that's adversity is the universe or God's way of forcing us to look at this. It's not supposed to make us suffer. It's supposed to make us look at what we're doing and say, do I want to keep doing this? Because I'm going to
Right.
get the same result. But if I'm willing to adapt, if I'm willing to learn, and what do we see, right? If you have a culture, if you have a company, if you have an organization and you claim that you have these ethos, this culture, but yet when the going gets tough and adversity strikes and you fall back into that lowest common denominator and you're not helping them and you're not sticking to it, then what are you doing? You're just as those words are hollow and you become just like all these other companies that people complain about. And if you're doing that, then what are you doing? You're wasting your time
And your talent. Yeah.
and your
Time,
people's.
talent, and your people. Yeah. When I think about what I've learned about your story so far, and everyone has a history. Everyone has a history, and everyone has, as you said, that scale of adversity that they have faced. Yours is higher than many that have faced adversity. How did you emerge from, being on the sofa or in bed on your 40th birthday and having that moment of realization? Now you have conquered so much of the adversity you were facing. What was the difference maker? How did you do that? How did you go on to have a TED Talk? And now your second book is in the hands of the publisher, getting ready to come out. And you are this coach of CEOs and leaders that are facing adversity. Take us from that 40th birthday. What happened and how did you face it? And how did you grow?
Yeah. And before I get into that, you talked about adversity and how my adversity may be greater than others, but I want to remind everybody that adversity is not a competition.
Correct.
It is relative. We are all human beings. I spoke in Florida in 2019 and I had this young girl come up and give me a hug after my speech. And she said, your story is my story. I was like, oh, okay. And then her family is back there. And she runs off and her dad comes up and he shakes my hand. He's like, our daughter was a victim of human trafficking, right? So it still gets me. She's like, when I realized that, I'm like, oh my God, you think I'm brave? You think my story is like, you're the brave one. So what I face compared to what that little girl did. And then she came up and gave me a hug. And he said, the reason why that's so powerful is because she hasn't reached out to a stranger since then. So that hit me. But the
What a
truth
gift
is,
that was.
right. Yeah. And it
Yeah.
made me realize it's like, wow, this can impact people no matter where they are. The thing is, I had to face adversity because I had no other choice, because I was stuck in that place and I was literally suicidal, but I couldn't act on it because of my paralysis, right? So being in that place forced me to go through the 5 stages, right? Kubler-Ross talks about denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. But between denial and anger is this place called regret. And man, I can live with a failure all day, but regret, that's something I can't do because that's something I can control. I can control attempting something and failing and making peace with that because there's a lot of data-rich information in that failure. But for me, I had to go through all those things. So for about 4 months, I was not very nice to be around. I was mean to all the people that would come in and take care of me. I was not grateful for anything, frankly. And then I finally had to realize that this anger was going to destroy whatever life I had left. And here's the thing, at 40 years old, when you realize that you may have another 40 years of your life in
Right.
a bed, dependent on somebody else, you can't even take care of yourself, man, that's a fate worse than death, in my opinion. So I had to come to this place of saying, okay, I had to just have radical acceptance, let go of expectation, let go of faith, let go of fear, let go of justification of this isn't fair. I'm a good person. Why is this happening to me? Everybody else is doing these things and they're getting away with all this. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the only meaning that adversity has is the meaning that you choose to assign it, period. If I choose to see it as something that makes me level up, it will be. But if I see it as this thing that represses me and keeps me down, I'll be a victim for the rest of my life. And that's where I was. I had to make this choice. Do I want to lay on my back and play the victim and be that angry veteran? Or do I want to say, this is where I'm at. I don't like it. I don't have to like it. Let go of what you think it should be. Let go of where you think you ought to be. Let go of the preference and the emotion of what you want it to be. See what's happening right now and then say, no BS. What do I have to do? to move to the next place. In leadership, the decisions that we make are very few times perfect. If I make this singular decision, everything is going to be great. No, lots of times it's about the least evil, right? It's about the least compromised decision that you can make until you finally get to a place where things make sense. So for me, I was like, I don't know where this leads to, but I know that I'm going to face it with everything I've got. And the opposite of anger for me was not love. It was radical acceptance and then real no BS gratitude. I was in the light infantry. I'd just been given a team. I was a team leader. So if I'd have been in Afghanistan, they'd pushed our deployment back twice. So if I'd have been outside the wire in Afghanistan with the team in a hot zone and I'd been injured, because I believe this injury would have helped, and the injury would have happened no matter where I was. So whether I was in the US preparing to jump off or whatever, I was lucky that it happened here, because for every one man that is injured, it takes 2 men to pull him to safety. I would have compromised my team, my guys, another team, a helicopter that would have had to fly into a hot zone to come get us. And if you've seen any show on TV about the Army or about SEALs or anybody like that, the biggest target that you can have is this big helo coming in trying to rescue you. And that's why I was like, wow, I'm lucky. Not that I'm lucky, but I'm grateful that nobody else was injured. And that gave me something I hadn't had for a long time, which was hope. And that was the building block. And then I let go of all this anger, all this justified BS that I was saying was the reason. And I became grateful for the people that would take care of me, the room that I may never leave, or the bed I may never get out of. And 2 weeks after I had that radical acceptance, I started getting feeling back on my left hand, but it was very small. And then I got hubris. I got arrogant. I got that soldier mentality. I got that chip on my shoulder. See, I knew I could just walk this off.
Right.
And I regressed slowly.
Wow.
I plateaued. I regressed. I got back to the very first place again. And I was like, okay, I have to go through all this again. And it was hard again because I had seen what could happen. But once I let go of all that stuff and got back to that place, I never looked back. In a year and a half of physical and occupational therapy, I got medically retired. And then I faced the new adversity of, now what do I do with it?
Right. And you had been working on becoming a doctor of chiropractic. And now that this happened, that dream was no longer available or an option.
Yeah,
Right.
I've got neuropathy, they call it. It's numbness in your hands and your feet. So I can pick things up, but if you're asking me to do something dexterous like adjust a patient or
Right.
palpate their spine, I can't do that. And so the school said, you can come back and finish your doctorate. You can call yourself a doctor, but you cannot practice. And you don't know what you want until it's ripped away from you. That's when we know what's really valuable for us. So to me, I realized that time was something really valuable to me. So wasting it doing something that felt superfluous, that wasn't going to help me do something with what I had, I just let that go. And I just, again, had that radical acceptance. This is what I want. This is not in the cards. Move forward. And that's the art, right? As a leader, I will face adversity. I'm going to give it everything I have. And if it doesn't budge, do I keep pushing? Do I break myself off trying to move this thing that may not move? Or do I step back, take a breath, detach and say, okay, maybe I come back to this later. Maybe I circumvent this. Maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to do right now. And maybe it's going to put me in the direction to do the things that I need to do. There was a book by Robert Greene in 2018 that came out, and it's called Mastery. I've got it up on my bookshelf here.
Yes.
And he says in that book, he says, when you're not sure where to go back to the beginning. So for me, back to the beginning was the thing that I loved the most as a young boy. When I was 11, I started doing martial arts. And within the martial arts is wrapped in this idea of real philosophy. It's funny because if you look at philosophers back that were the most influential, they never had a degree in philosophy. They were people that were taking principles, handfuls of them, like Acta Non Verba, and then applying them radically and then mastering those things. Today, there are a lot of people that have doctorates or PhDs or write a bunch of books about it, but they're not putting it into play. So
Right.
they're armchair philosophers at best, and that's fine because that helps a lot of people. But you don't really know what's true until you're out there. And all the philosophy that I heard in my head when I was lying in a bed just sounded like a bunch of flowery BS because it wasn't helping me. And it's like, well, it's easy to say that when you're not the one that's in it.
Right.
But the truth is now that when I am in these places where I'm facing it or where I'm helping somebody else face it, for better or for worse in 2012, like being the Get to Adversity guide in 2012 or 2020 when everybody's life went sideways, I had companies from all over the world like, hey, you need to help us face this adversity that we don't know what's going on. And I think they were hoping that I would like give them this magic secret to not have to deal with it. But I gave them the steps and I gave them the roadmap, but you can't take the hardship away. It's just part of it. But that's what his job is, right? His job is to force you to hack away at the inessentials, to look at these with a very bright light, these inadequacies and these weaknesses. And then when you don't have the luxury of paying a bunch of overhead or a bunch of payroll. Okay, what are we going to do? What has to happen? And hard decisions had to be made, but that's the way life is.
Right. And so it is when you face it, that is when the real strength and that real core value is going to come absolutely to fruition. Especially if it's a situation like the one you were in where you didn't, I won't say you didn't have a choice. You had very few choices because you
Right.
did still have a choice, right? You could have
Hmm.
chosen to, as you said,
Yeah, I could have played the victim, or
accepted and not challenged anything and been like, here I am. This is the
right.
rest of my life. So
Yeah.
you still made that tough choice. And then working with people to face that, especially during the pandemic, um, what a blessing for them to have your counsel and your guidance and you as a sounding board there. When you wrote the book, The Gift of Adversity, and you also, I believe prior to the book even coming out, you also had a TED Talk around it. Oh,
Yes.
is that what gave you that platform where people were reaching out to you because they're like, wait a minute, who was that guy again that handled the adversity? We need him, but was that part of the springboard to where you are today?
Yeah, I didn't even have social media before the TEDx, and then the TEDx came out. I got LinkedIn started, the books, and that put me on the map. And in a lot of ways, that kind of helped jumpstart my career. But in business, potential is fine, but it doesn't mean anything unless you're actually providing like real quality to help people. And
Right.
so I've been doing this coaching for over 10 years. So these things that we're doing help people, but it just takes a lot of consistent application, helping this person, helping them so much to where they are compelled to tell somebody else about it. It's remarkable, right? Like they have to remark about it. And these things are fantastic. But again, connecting them as a human being, being honest, being vulnerable. And I didn't realize that I was just sort of doing what I felt like I needed to do. I spoke a couple of times before I was given the TEDx opportunity. And at one of my speaking events, there was a woman during the Q&A. She was kind of pacing the back of the room. And so, she wants to talk to you, but she doesn't want to talk to you in front of everybody else. And that's fine. And she said, I want to buy your book. And I thought she was just, giving me a compliment. I was like, oh, well, thank you, but I don't have a book. And she just like reads me the riot act and like wags her finger. And she's like, how dare you have a story like this and not a book? And it w it it was coming from deep, and I said, "Well, what are you facing?" She's like, "Well, my granddaughter is facing great adversity. She was in a tumultuous relationship. It wasn't healthy. It was toxic." She's like, "If you had a book I could give it to her and it could help her." So, writing a book is a huge undertaking, and when I think of books, I think of, again, Stephen Pressfield, Robert Greene, these great authors, and I'm like, "I'm nothing like those people are." If you're being told something by the people you claim to want to help, then you have to do it. The same thing with the podcast. I was on a show 2019, and I had a guy that had me on his show, really great guy. He says, "What do you want to do with your message?" And I said, "I want to help as many people as I possibly can." And after we were done recording, he says, "You claim that you want to help all these people. Why don't you have a podcast?" And I was like, "Well, I don't have the time. I don't have all this." He's like, "Okay." He says, "But every time I hit record on this mic, 250,000 people listen to what I say." He's like, how many TEDx's would you have to do to make that happen?" He's like, "And I do
Mhm.
that once a week." And I was like, "Okay." So, and then if you speak and you have a speaking voice, or if you have the capacity to influence people with that, it would be my own fault if I don't leverage that in a way that's going to actually try to create genuine change. And so again, this idea of Acta Non Verba, very much, if nothing else, it keeps me aware of it, right? It's something that self-signals to me. It's a self-selection. So
Right.
that keeps me honest as well.
And it keeps you focused on action. It keeps your
Absolutely.
subconscious mind with that prioritizing
Always.
action over the words. And yet you also understand the incredible power of the words and your voice. So it's pretty remarkable. So your podcast is Acta Non Verba podcast.
Yes, just Acta Non Verba.
And
Yeah.
and you have over 300 episodes, I believe.
Yeah, we just hit 300, and the men that I mentioned, Robert Greene, I've been lucky enough to have him on. Stephen Pressfield, I've had him on a
Mm.
couple of times. I'm actually gonna be flying out to LA to interview him, in a couple of months, and again, we do these things for the right reasons, but then we never know how far reaching those things can be. And had I not taken the leap and created a podcast, there's no way I would have been on those guys' radar. They wouldn't even their people wouldn't have even considered it. But now because of that, I've cultivated these relationships with them. And that's not why we do it, but it's also an incredible bonus to why you do it. And that helps you get those opportunities. Stephen Pressfield had a writing retreat last year, actually 2 years ago. And it was this ability to come to around, and those things lead to other podcasts, other speaking events, other clients, business opportunities. But that's not why you do it. What happens is you try to become the best version of who you want to become. And then on those paths, you'll meet those same people that are trying to do that. So if you're down here and so I've had people say this to me about speaking. They'll say, hey, I've been speaking. And I'll say, how much are you charging? And they'll say, well, I'm not really charging, or they'll pay for me to come out there. And it's like, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. However, if I am seen by people that are not paying to see me, and then they refer other people that are not wanting to pay for it. So just
Right.
like a coach, right? If I'm not charging what I'm worth, what happens is I subconsciously as a coach hold back because I
Yes.
don't feel like the person is valuing what I'm giving them, right? And if that's the case, they don't act on it, right? And then what do? Well, now I'm not going to give them more because I don't think they're going to do it anyway. And it becomes
Yes.
this unhappy marriage.
A
And what happens?
negative downward spiral.
It is. And now what happens? That person has wasted their time, which they will never get back. They're not going to refer me people that are going to want to work with me or have me come speak to their company or come speak, right? Also,
Right.
because of that, I have not become a better coach. If I am not a better coach at the end of that coaching call and they are not a better client, I have failed them. So every time I do this, I should be better. In the martial arts, if you have, I'm an instructor under Bruce Lee's protege, Guru Dana Santo. And every time you step on the mat, you should be better when you step off. If I'm teaching somebody this idea of one teaches and two learn, that's the idea. So if I'm not getting better, I'm subconsciously getting worse. And if I have that as this expectation, then it forces me to take action. It forces me to not hold back. It's like, this is the thing I should be saying, but I'm afraid to say it. No, that thing, I need to say it. Now, as a coach, I need to be smart enough to realize, how is this person going to receive it? I can't tell you how many people I have coached that tell me, just be honest with me, Marcus, just punch me in the face with some honesty.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. I know that they say that, but that's not what they want. But if I let my ego get in check and say, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to punch this guy in the face with, these are the things you're doing. This is why your life's like this. This is why your marriage is like this. This is why your kids are strangers. That's not what they need. Maybe I need to be indirect and ask them a couple of questions. And now say, maybe, just maybe, this is a weakness for you. Does that feel true? And now all of a sudden they're like, yeah, there's very much an art to coaching, but it
Yes.
depends on the individual. And we can do certain things with like these general ideas, but to really help that person, you have to get them to that place where they're facing adversity and they want to get out, and I have to keep them there and I have to get them to trust me. And for better or for worse, I'm uniquely qualified to do that because I've been through it.
Right.
And because they know that, they will believe in it. They will believe in me so that they believe in themselves. And now they can walk through that fire. And now they're like, man, I'm so glad that happened. But we had that decision to make literally hundreds of times a day as leaders. And if we don't make the courageous decision, we would default back into mediocrity.
You're so right about the delivery of that message. And as coaches, that we are attempting to have conversations and share questions and perspectives where someone internally can have a shift in how they see themselves, and they can discover, it's much more effective
Right.
in that method that you described, where you're allowing them to discover what they're doing that is creating it and maintaining it and accepting it. And also that in that acceptance, they also have the power to change it. But the throat punch people, they always crack me up. You're like, oh, hit me, just tell me the brutal truth and all of this. I wonder, Marcus, I wonder if you have the same feeling. Sometimes when people say that too much or too
Right.
strongly, I think that part of them wants change, but the other part of them wants to stay right where they are. Because if you truly hit them, with the 1-2 uppercut,
Yeah.
it gives them the reason to say, oh, hey there, you're wrong. Defensiveness comes up, and then they defend and they retreat and they stay in the ill-fitting yet comfort zone, and they don't have to face the change.
Yeah. I've also noticed the people that claim that they want that, they're looking for that soundbite. You're not going to find what you really need in the soundbite. It may get your attention, but the thing that you're looking for, you have to take whatever that soundbite is or whatever it is that resonated with you and go deeper with it. So there's nothing that I'm saying that has not been said by incredible leaders and philosophers for thousands of years.
Yes.
Jerry Colonna, amazing coach, amazing author, amazing man. And he says one of the questions that he asks people is, how have you been complicit in allowing the situation that you claim that you don't want? I mean, there are millions of variations on this, but that is the truth. If you don't like where your body is, if you don't like where your relationships are, if you don't like your financial situation, it's all on you every single
Right.
time. And you can say, well, I'm too busy. Everybody's busy. If everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. What do you want? And when you ask that person, what do they really want? Then you say, what will having that do for you? And then you ask them, how will you know when you have it? And when you give them like 3 layers of questions like that, now I can't stop them from getting what they want because they have a clear, definitive idea of why it's important. But if we had these vague notions and we're chasing a monetary goal or a KPI, man, the moment that we hit any real adversity, we're going to fold like a house of cards.
Right.
And those are the questions people have to have. And people know it, but they're hoping that we'll give them something that allows them to not have to do that. And unfortunately, in this environment, there are plenty of people that will create a program, a book, whatever it is, that will promise you those things. But until you get down at this foundational level, until you know what's actually valuable to you, until you have something ripped away from you, then you're not going to even know, you won't have a leg to stand on. And you can't build anything on that.
So as I'm listening to you and watching you, you are moving around. So how did you reclaim your physicality?
Yeah, so eventually I was able to get to a place where I was rehabilitated enough to the whole thing was, can you put keys in a car ignition? Can you hold a glass of water? Can you take care of yourself? But I'm back to about 190 pounds now, but as a soldier, I was 190 pounds. But when I was discharged, medically retired, I was 260 pounds. I was very overweight. I had all kinds of muscle atrophy. So going back to the martial arts was literally my form of therapy. Being able to make a fist, to throw a punch properly, to hold a weapon, to do a takedown. The beautiful thing about Bruce Lee's martial art, the way that Guru Asando teaches us is, I had to be proficient in about a dozen different arts. I had to be able to hold a blade, a stick, use both hands. I had to be able to fight with both sides. I had to know the ground. I had to be able to kick and punch. I have to understand Salat, Kali, all these different things. But that was how I had to relearn. And then I went back to teaching because I had black belts and certifications in all these arts. I had a gentleman that was a good friend of mine that actually kind of held my feet to the fire. He's like, hey, I need somebody to teach my Jeet Kune Do class on Tuesday and Thursdays during the day. You're my guy. You're already certified. I've certified you 20 years ago. Come in and do it. And that's what I needed because it gave me something to get outside of my own head. And then ironically, the story would come out, right? But it's not what I would lead with. But I had people that would come to the class and then say, I want to take a private lesson. And then invariably what would happen is the people that could afford that were what? Leaders, business owners. And then we would go to lunch or have a conversation after. And they would talk about what was going on. You just talk about it. And then almost to the second, I could tell them what we just worked on with the blade, for example. This applies in your business. You're not listening to your people. They're pushing this direction and you're resisting them. Why are you resisting them? Well, because that's not right. How do you know? Is that true? Is it possible? Maybe that they could be correct and you're wrong. And how much is it costing you to let them try? Even if you're wrong, what else would you build? Trust, leadership capital, relationship, communication, culture.
Right.
You can't lose. And if they're right, man, that's a huge win.
Right.
And all
Yeah.
of a sudden, now they have this force multiplier. Everybody wants to scale business, right? But they don't understand that if I scale my business, whatever inadequacies I have, they're going to scale as well. And those inadequacies scale faster than your strengths. So you may be scaling yourself out of business if you don't tighten this stuff up and if you're not honest and if you don't listen to your people. And if you're paying them, why don't you let them do their job?
I know.
Right? If I'm the CEO and I want to have my finger in everything and I have a CFO and a COO and all these people doing this stuff, I'm like, I'm going to come in and solve the problem. No, you're not. You're going to undo 2 weeks of work that they've been doing, build distrust. And most of the time you get in there and realize they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing anyway.
What you mention is so damaging to culture, because the way that makes the people that you are paying feel that it's horrendous. They've been working on something and they're excited and they feel that they're valued and respected and that they
Yes.
have some authority and they're able to contribute, and you swoop in and decimate it like Godzilla,
Mhm.
or even with a smile. Maybe it's not fiery, but you come in and you just, destroy it. That will kill the culture in a team or a business. I believe, faster than almost anything.
It will, and it only has to happen once, because now this
Yep.
person that was a go-getter that would, run through a wall for you. Now, what have you taught them? Hey, wait until I tell you what to do. And now that person, especially in a leadership position, that person is just waiting for you to tell them what to do. And now, instead of going out and being emboldened and taking as much like pride in what they do to try to find new opportunities, no, I'm going to stay in this box because Marcus came in here the other day and told me this, and why should I care more about this position than he does? And all of a sudden, here's the thing, even if they don't say anything to the people that they lead, that residue trickles down and they can't put their finger on it, but it's there. And now it's like I walk in and it's like, things are different. I wonder what happened. Well, if I'm smart enough to think back of what happened the last 10 days, yeah, it's probably there.
It is very difficult to come back from that.
It is. And
they go
Go
from
ahead.
feeling valued and respected to not even noticed or worthwhile. And it's very difficult to build that trust back or to allow that
Yes.
natural gift to grow back in the same manner.
Yeah. And so the only way is for me to go to them, be honest, and own every ounce of it. I'm really sorry. I had a lot of other stuff going on. No, I didn't trust you, and I'm sorry. I also have to tell them so they understand it. Then I have to tell the whole team and take ownership in front of them too and say, listen, I talked. This was what I did incorrectly. I'm sorry. This is why it was bad. This is why it was wrong. And now I see that I did that. My goal is not to do that. Our core values don't really exhibit that, but I let my ego get in the way because I was worried about a KPI or a deadline or something else that was going on in my life. And that doesn't mean it's okay. But I just want you to know I'm aware of it and I'm sorry. And I'm endeavoring not to repeat that behavior, and then give everybody a chance to say what they want to say.
Yes.
Throw eggs at me, right? Get it out now.
And hear it. Yes.
Yeah. We're pulling the thorn out right now so we can be done with it in this 10 minutes and it doesn't continue to just meander for another 6 months. And what else am I doing? I'm teaching my people it's okay to mess up, because guess what? You're a human being. You're going to mess up.
Yes.
But if I create the culture that allows people the capacity to fail, they will fail forward. They will fail up, and they will do it for the culture every single time. And it's not going to happen overnight, especially after you drop the ball. But if you continue to do that, you're familiar with Richard Devaney? He wrote a book called The Attributes, former Navy SEAL commander. He was on my show a couple times. Amazing guy. He talks about these 4 C's for trust, right? And it's in his book. And he says the very first C is competence. So I have to demonstrate that I know how to do it. Well, that's the beginning of it. The second one is consistency. Just because I'm able to do it, am I going to do it when I really need to do it, right?
Right.
The third C is character. So what am I doing when nobody's looking? And then the last C is compassion. So if I can follow those 4 C's, I will build the capacity for them to give me the 5th C, which is commitment, because I cannot make anybody trust me, but I can earn that trust. But the decision is up to them. And that decision is influenced by my Acta Non Verba, period. So if you're trying to build trust with people, with your family, in a relationship with yourself, do those things.
It is so funny. And that actually ties in with the name of my podcast, The Inner Estate, because really, we have to have the own trust in our own selves, and we have to lead our own selves every day if we're going to have any true impact on anyone else. So I'm glad you mentioned that. We do, and we re-earn our own trust with ourselves
Every
every
minute of
day.
every day. Yeah. All leadership comes from self-leadership, right? Self-leadership comes from knowing thyself. And the only way to know thyself, the gateway to that, is through adversity, because that's the only way you're going to know who you are and what you believe. We can say all this stuff, but when your back's against the wall, that's when you figure out what you're really made of. And then you have to do it again. You did it yesterday? Great. We have to do it today.
Now we have to do it again.
And we have to be willing to choose to do it tomorrow. And that's the path, and people can glorify it or try to sugarcoat it, but at the end of the day, that's what we have to do. Now, I'm not saying that we have to break ourselves off or be unhappy, but we have to at least once a day find the thing that we don't want to do and convince ourselves and do it. Did David Goggins' 4x4x48 challenge in 2021 and 2022. So you're running 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours straight. And I was doing it to raise money to stop human trafficking. But it made me, you're running at 10 p.m., 2 a.m., 6 a.m., 10 a.m., 2 p.m., 6 p.m., 10 p.m. You start that on Friday at 10 and you finish your last run on Sunday night at 6 p.m. And so you're not getting a full 8 hours of sleep. It's built into it, but you learn who you are and you learn what's important, and you start using these tools. You start using the adversity scale. It's just the most difficult thing I've done. No, it sucks right now though. because
Yeah.
it's 2 a.m. and I've been running for 28 hours and it's freezing drizzle and I'm cold and this bed is nice and warm. But what I did was I was like, what's the why? Well, for me, I was doing this to stop human trafficking. So the people that I was doing this for, to raise money for, didn't have a choice. They didn't have a warm, safe bed to even luxuriously think about going for a run. Then I also reminded myself when I was paralyzed from the neck down, God, I would have given anything to run 4
Anything.
miles.
Mhm.
Guess what? You asked for this, man. Get up, put on your shoes, go.
Do it. When, you touched on regret, and you've obviously, you've shared a lot of your story. Where does self-forgiveness fit in to this? Have you had to forgive yourself? Um,
Yeah.
and how powerful is that?
It's the unlock, right? It's the thing that really gives you that. So it's really easy to kind of create a caricature of somebody, right? I mentioned doing this David Goggins challenge, right? I wasn't doing it to like flex or anything. I was trying to challenge myself. I
Mhm.
actually fasted during that, right? I didn't eat anything. I just consumed water and breath, but I needed that additional level of adversity to give me that push. Um, but what happens is if my only answer is to push harder, eventually that gets to a place where that doesn't work. And now what do I have? Like being a coach. If all I do is yell at the person, say, go and push and why quit, suck it up. That's not going to be enough because that may work a little bit. But if it doesn't, what else do I have? I have to have these additional skill sets. So this is where the honesty comes in. Okay. The real honesty. If I gave everything I could to this thing and I failed, I can forgive that because I did attempt it with good faith. But this is the thing about adversity, okay? Right when you're almost to the end, it will offer you a consolation prize. It'll say, hey, you've been pushing really hard. You're almost there. Why are you beating yourself up? Listen, why don't you just take it easy for right now? And then you know what? All the suffering's going to stop. There's no reason to do that. You've already proven your point. You've already learned all the stuff you need to learn. You've already accomplished more than you thought was possible. And if that happens, and if you give up, you'll feel like a liar and you feel like a fool, and you will absolutely be correct. Because by the time adversity is offering you that last ditch Mary pass to try to stop what you're doing, it's because you're 80% there and you just need to stay in the pocket a little bit longer. So why would you give up what you could have? And here's the other part. The success that we have and the feeling that we have afterwards gives this like exponential effect on everything else we do. Because now we can say to ourselves, okay, if I tried and failed, I can forgive that and I can give myself grace. Because that's just, okay, I failed here. So next time I want to endeavor to do this. I change my approach. I do different training, whatever it is. But if I don't do that stuff and I just let myself off the hook, I'm going to let myself off the hook every single time it's hard. And what's going to happen now is going to bleed over into my clients. And now the very thing that they need me for, not what they're paying me for, what they need me for, the most, I'm letting it go. So I have to be able to be honest. Did I really try? Yes. Did I try with everything I had? Because a lot of people will try till they face some adversity and then they give up. The idea is to say, listen, I need to have hindsight right now. I need to ask myself before I face this adversity, this is premeditation on adversity, right? How do I want to feel on the other side of this adversity? Do I want to feel proud that I pushed myself, that I demanded more of myself and I reached a level I didn't think I was capable of? Or do I want to feel regret? Do I want to make up a bunch of excuses to justify my mediocrity? And if I do that, man, I'll do that in everything else. In this life, you are either moving closer to your goals or further away. There is no in between. And if you're not endeavoring to move forward, you're slowly slipping. You just don't feel it yet. But the problem is adversity has momentum. And if you don't do everything in your power to go past it, to push beyond it, to see it and say, I see you, I'm not afraid of you, and push forward, then you will live this life of quiet desperation, slowly capitulating one breath at a time. And before you know it, you're 40 or 30 or wherever you're at. And then you're saying, wow, where'd all that time go? And that's opportunity cost. And that has a compounding interest that you will never get back.
And that is where dreams go to die.
That's it.
It's the wasteland.
It is. And if you notice, it's everywhere. It's omnipresent. And when you do that, here's the thing. You're going to have plenty of people that say, come on, it's okay. We gave up on our dreams and ambitions too. Come on, we're going to go watch the game. Let's have a beer.
Right.
There will be plenty of people that will be happy to applaud mediocrity for you. What's the thing on social? They said, hey, I got a new job, and you get like 1,000 likes. But then you say, hey, I'm starting my own business. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why don't you have a real job? And I'm not saying you have to create your own business, but I'm saying that there is something inside you that you want. You can have a regular job, quote unquote. You can do a side hustle. You can have a regular job, learn to play the guitar, write a screenplay, write your first book, do that side hustle, start that sport, do whatever that thing is. But if you don't and you just let the time waste away, when you're killing time, it's killing you. Don't waste it. Don't don't go through the adversity that I had to go through to take action, you know?
Right. Make it happen now.
Well, the choice is now or never. There is no tomorrow.
Well, that is, if someone is listening to the two of us and they have unfulfilled, they have not chased their passion, they've stopped themselves repeatedly, they've accepted the mediocrity, what do you recommend to them in terms of just one first step?
What I would ask them is, what more has to happen before you decide to do this thing, right? Do you have to lose your health, your wealth, your family? What has to happen? Because this is the scary part, okay? If I believe it takes something really horrible to happen to me before I take action, I'm manifesting that right now as I speak.
Right.
And that means I want to hesitate until that thing happens. And guess what? By the time that thing happens, that's going to be such a greater adversity than what I could get done right now if I would just suck it up and push through and be honest about what I'm actually doing or where I'm not applying myself. And for some people that may sound dark, but it's the truth. If you
Right.
don't have that sort of intention, if you don't have that sort of understanding, like adversity will eventually ask you to give up things that you may never get back. You have to be willing to do this thing now. There's no telling what else could be happening. That would be my advice.
And leaning in on Acta Non Verba, I'll say something that some people think is a little unpopular. Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. And if you do talk about it, be very selective of who you
Yeah.
talk about it with. Talk
Yeah.
to someone like Marcus. Talk to someone like me that will ask you questions and that
Yeah.
will allow you to see your own pathway forward. But be really careful who you speak about it with and just take the actions. Get into action. I think, and I'd love your opinion, I think it's stronger. Let's say someone's listening to us right now and they are going to take the action and start. When you just start taking the actions, the people around you will notice. You want to create the curiosity in them. Instead of you going there and speaking all over them of what ifs and maybes and dreams, you
Right.
just start acting. Allow
Yep.
them to become curious and to observe it. And then when they come to you and they ask what you're doing and they tell you what they've seen,
Mhm.
usually, not always, usually they'll be more supportive. So
Yeah,
I just would
because
say be
yeah,
really careful of who you speak to.
yeah, we have to don't sing it, bring it. There's so many people that here's the other part. Winston Churchill, and I'm going to modify the quote, but he says something along the lines of, when I was in my 20s, I was worried about what everybody thought about me. When I was in my 40s, I stopped caring about what people thought about me. And then when I was in my 60s, I realized that nobody cared what I was doing anyway. Nobody was really watching. And so that was back then in the, 40s but in today's society with this misery device that we have, right?
Right.
People are more like, that's all they concern themselves with is, what do I think and where am I at? How does this affect me? What's my opinion about this? Man, to have an opinion today, all you need is a Wi-Fi connection, and people are more than happy to do that. When you let those things go and you realize that those things are not going to pay your bills or help you get to the goal that you want, it doesn't matter. It's a vanity metric at best. And again, figure out what's truly a priority for you. Like, there's only a handful of things that are really important to me: my family, my people, and my mission. And if it doesn't fall into those things, then I just let it go.
Mhm.
I've realized how little I need, right? Between being bedridden, overcoming that, reaching levels of success I didn't know was possible, and now getting to a place where it's like, there are people that are richer than I am, right? But I have something that they will never have. I have enough. They never will. And that person may be chasing these things, but they may be empty, and they create adversity around them, chaos around them to keep trying to get to this next thing. But the thing that they need to be looking at is in here. And that's the hard part. But if you do that, you can find peace that is the most resolute thing. And you can face any adversity in the world and say, you know what, this sucks. This is difficult, but I'm going to get through it. And even if it's not, it will force me to become the person that can elevate myself. And here's the other part, especially if we're leading or if we have other people that depend on us. The adversity that we can endure on our own is tremendous, but it is nothing compared to the adversity that you will endure for those around you.
Mhm.
Your team, your family, your community, the thing you're spearheading, your belief, your drive, your purpose, your mission. Man, you can't stop somebody that's committed like that, but you have to figure out what it is for you. And it may be different for each of us. But once you find that, get out of the way, guys. They're coming through.
So, Marcus, there are people out there listening to us right now that have compelling stories, as compelling as yours, that they feel no one would want to hear it and that it's not powerful. and who would haven't done anything, who wants to hear anything from me. What would you say to someone that has that current self-perception?
Yeah, I've had people that will come up after I speak and they'll say, "I haven't gone through what you've gone through, but dot, dot, dot." So first of all, don't take that power away of what you've gone through, because if everybody took the adversity that they were suffering with and they put it on a table and we all saw what everybody else was dealing with, we would gladly grab ours back. I guarantee
Mhm.
that. Second of all, it's easy to put a person who's gone through adversity on a pedestal and say, "Yeah, but that's Marcus. He's been through this. That's what he does." At the time, it wasn't. At the time, it was like I really had to do some deep soul searching. But the thing is, you don't know who you're inspiring just by opening a door for somebody. Or I don't know if you do this, but if I see somebody at the grocery store, an older person that's in the, the chair and they can't, I'll just go up and, "Can I buy your groceries?" It's $50, $100. And for that person, it means the world. Now, do I say, "Listen to my podcast and look at my TEDx?" No, they don't know who I am. It doesn't matter, right? But that changed their day, their life. And so you don't know how far reaching something that you do today could be. And it could be as simple as telling your story, because your story may be more reachable to that person than saying, "Well, I was paralyzed from the neck down. I died on the table twice." For better or for worse, that was a big adversity. But when you have a person that's like, "Man, I got out of $100,000 worth of debt," or "I went through this tumultuous divorce," or "I got custody of my child back," whatever it is, there is somebody that needs that message. And we were talking about people that they die with this potential, they die with this dream. And if you don't spread your message, that opportunity to help other people passes away with you.
Really does. So what if they fail? What if they tell their story and no one listens and what if they fail?
Does it matter?
Oh,
Doesn't you already have the no, right? If I don't ask for anything, right here. And here's the thing, it's in business and anything else. Ask yourself, no BS, how hard would it be for me to get to the exact place that I am right now? So if I go ask that person out or start that business or do whatever this is and I fail, can I still get to where I'm at? Sure. I literally have everything to gain and nothing to
yes.
lose.
You mentioned earlier your 40-year-old self thinking, oh, if I live 40 more years and it's going to be this. It reminded me of a tool that I use my own self. And I call it the 80 years old on my front porch test. And when I'm 80 on the front porch, am I going to regret not taking the chance? Or am I going to laugh when I failed? Be glad that I tried. And I know myself well enough. I want to be laughing at the failures. I want to be, if I'm sitting there and I'm reflecting, I want to know that I had made every attempt with whatever knowledge I had at the time and whatever
Yeah.
resources I had at the time, that I took chances. And I'd rather be laughing at the failures than regretting not taking the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm 54 now, and I look back at the things like you said. Here's the thing. The people that fear failure need to fail more often because they don't trust themselves. They think they're made out of porcelain. But man, if you go out and try to do something, you fall down flat on your face, fail miserably, and then get up and brush yourself off and go, first of all, nobody was looking. Nobody cares.
Cheers.
Nobody's going to pay attention until you win. Even then, they may not. And guess what? It doesn't matter anyway. So if you are emboldened by that and you realize it doesn't matter, then what are you waiting for? There's literally nothing that could possibly hold you back except for what? Your own fear. Because
That's right.
the people that are constantly, again, if we're fixated on ourselves, we're always worried about that. But here's the thing, find someone or something outside of you to focus that attention on. And now you don't really care. It's not that big of a deal. It's this idea, that's what builds resilience, right? If I get a blister on my finger or if I get a bigger muscle, what am I doing? I have to give it that opportunity to hit friction, some sort of adversity, or I have to be, the physical manifestation of adversity is an adversary, right? So our best teacher is an opponent because that person's not going to give me any quarter. They're not going to pull any punches. They're not going to give me any respect. They're coming for me. But that's how I learn. Okay, I do have the skill. I do have the courage. Oh, I do have the capacity. But until I do that, I won't know. And here's the thing. If I don't have this mentality affixed well before I face adversity, it's too late. I have to already
You,
be in that place to be able to do it.
yeah, and you have to have the skills. I mean, that's the thing that I think is exciting that might not get talked about enough. A lot of what you and I are talking about are skills you can learn and you can practice every day. One that you mention is no bullshit gratitude. Correct me if I'm not saying it quite right, but I
No,
believe
you're saying it
that's,
right.
so no bullshit gratitude. That is a habit and a skill you can learn and develop. And when you learn and develop it, then it's within you. So then when the challenges come and the adversity comes, like you were just saying, then you're more prepared mentally to be able to take it on. So I always love to hear straight from guests. So what does no
Yeah.
bullshit gratitude mean to you?
So I hear a lot of people say I'm practicing gratitude, and I love that. But the people that I hear doing that are half-assing it. They're not really being grateful, because if it's bullshit gratitude, it's like, let me write down all the stuff that I already have. I've got this great house. I've got this great wife. I've got this great business. Well, that's a Christmas list. That's a child's fantasy. Okay.
Right.
It's easy to be grateful for that stuff. That's the stuff that you've been working for. Of course you're grateful for that. That's a no-brainer. When do you need gratitude the most? When you're facing real adversity. Real adversity. Whatever your 10 is, you need gratitude then. That's when you need it. So you need to have no bullshit gratitude now. Because here's the thing. If I'm in a fight and I haven't been practicing the skill, I can't hope to magically rise to the occasion, because it's not going to be there. Because I'm going to fall behind. I'm going to be afraid. My body's not going to be used to the adrenaline dump, all these things. And then when I'm there, I'm going to freeze up. I'm going to get knocked out. And then I'm going to be like, oh, this martial art doesn't work. Martial art works. You're not working. The skill works. No bullshit gratitude works. You're not working it. So every day when you're facing something, at the end of the day, this is what I give my clients. When they're brushing their teeth at the end of the night, I ask them to think about something that day that was a form of adversity or something that angered them. Because usually before you're going to bed, you've had enough time to distance yourself. And now ask yourself, what can I find in this adversity that I can be grateful for? What weakness is this shining a light on? Yeah, I need to talk to that person about this. I need to not let myself slip on my diet. I need to make sure I get back in the gym. I need to actually journal. I need to actually meditate, whatever that thing is. I need to have that hard conversation with my wife, because I need to take ownership, because I was a dick to her and I love her and she doesn't deserve that, right? It's
Right.
simple. So all these things that people try to make complex, make it simple. Bring it down to your level. Put it into the very fabric of your existence, of your being, and then apply it all the time. The truth is the truth, irrespective of the source or where it's at. So if the principle works here, but it's not working somewhere else in your life, it's not the principle that's wrong. It's your application of it. That's where you're failing. If you're saying Acta Non Verba is great for the gym and you're in great shape, fantastic. Apply it in your gym. That's great. Apply it in your business. Apply it in getting clients. Apply it in your relationship. Apply it in, I don't know, unloading the dishwasher, whatever it is. Stop waiting for everything to be perfect and do the damn thing. And gratitude is something, here's the thing. When everything else was ripped away from me, gratitude was the one thing, even in a paralyzed state, that I could deploy at will. I didn't have to get permission. I didn't have to have somebody give me love or give me these things. I could choose to deploy it at any given time. And that's where my freedom was. That was the beginning. That helped me be grateful for that thing. That gave me the gratitude to begin to breathe, give myself the capacity to go from sympathetic to parasympathetic, something as simple as that. And that was the beginning. But if you don't have those things, it's just a bunch of platitudes. And then when the going gets tough and you need gratitude the worst, it's going to fall. You're going to lose it. You're going to miss it. It's all opportunity. You have to look at that. Adversity is where your actual opportunity is. And actions cure all. Even if I fail in act, I am on the move. I can now beeline because I'm already in motion, right? But if I'm flat-footed and the opportunity's there, I missed it because I wasn't in motion. Get moving.
Moving. That is right. And Acta Non Verba in all areas. I love the example of the dishwasher. I'm going to think about that when I'm looking.
That's it.
It's almost
That's
time for
it.
spring cleaning, so I'm going to be all.
It's a great reminder.
But the gratitude piece is so compelling, and it tied in, just going back to what you shared earlier of when you had that first glimmer of hope. The gratitude and hope, I think they do a waltz together, in our minds. And if you develop the ability to access it at will through habit and skill, then you're going to weather the adversity a different way. So I believe that those are really critical. So many people don't think it's a skill. A lot of people think it's gift. That's just easy for you. We're just born that way. You were able to. You're Tigger and I'm Eeyore. No, it's actually there's actual skills and practices that you can implement. And you can learn how to have that in your tool belt. And then what is the phrase? I'm gonna butcher it in the moment, but when adversity comes, we don't rise to the occasion. We fall to the level of our preparation.
Right.
So
We
this is
default.
something that take action on it and take action on it. There you go. We're just
There it
still
is.
falling in with your very applicable podcast name and book title and philosophy. So I think, prepare for that. What a great thing to prepare, because you benefit every time you lean in on gratitude. It's great. So you can enjoy it while you're along the way.
It's a self-perpetuating cycle if you do it properly.
Marcus, I want to thank you so much. A, for being our guest, and B, sharing so much of your story, what you've gone through, and inspiring anyone who may be listening to this. I'm going to let everyone know when your new book is released, and I'm going to put myself on alert so I am notified as soon as it's available. And I would even love to have you back one day because we could even talk. I believe that Stoicism may have impacted some of your philosophy. We could have a great conversation regarding that and what's possible for people discovering and leaning in more on that. This has been fantastic, and I want to thank you again for being our guest.
Thank you for having me.
If you're listening to this episode of The Inner Estate, I hope you'll come back for the next episode. Have a great day.